Beefcake! Beefcake! I'm gonna be the one on TV looking all buff. We're gonna add a little bit of weight to our rig today. We're gonna make it nice and portly up front. The Element Enduro is getting some brass knuckles and C-hubs. So I said to myself, I said, well, you know what would be real nice is a little bit more forward weight bias on this rig and maybe a little bit more weight on it as well. Although I could tune these tires for less and less weight and make them hook better. There is a point to where I want a little bit more forward weight bias. And right now, yeah, it could use just a little bit more. So what I did is first I hopped on Amazon and I tried to get a set of SSD brass knuckles and the STRC C-hubs that are both machined out of brass. However, it looked like one of them was going to deliver in, I don't know, a week, and the other one was going to take about 30 days, even though it was on Amazon Prime. So I strolled on over to Hobbies, and they had free delivery by Friday, and this was, I think, on a Thursday Tuesday or Monday. And they also had $20 overnight delivery as well. So I chose A-Main. It's also good, of course, to support somebody that supports us hobbyists. And there we go. So I got these in time for the video. We got the SSD heavy knuckles. These are really beefy. It's not just a repop of the original brass knuckle or the original knuckle design. It is a lot bigger in pretty much all directions. So we'll see how it bolts up. And then the same for these STRC C-hubs. These are what looks to be a factory copy, essentially. So they should, in theory, just bolt right up. So that's what we're gonna do. I'll take the body off, we'll bolt these on, and we'll get a little bit more weight. Now, the rear, it was available to get some rear weight as well, but I'm looking for forward weight bias, not just weight. So anytime that I can manage to add weight to the front and not the rear, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna see if I can be tricky today and potentially not unbolt the outside and just kind of pull everything out. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to or not, but I'll give it a shot. I will give it a shot. We do it the lazy way. Here we go, there's our 2mm, 2.5, there we go. I believe these are 2mm. So the top of these knuckles just have like a bolt in for our steering arm, which means that I should be able to unbolt these steering arms and then pull the knuckle and the C-hub off as one big unit. I guess I'll need to, I guess I'll have to unbolt the wheels as well, because otherwise we won't be able to get it out. Can we? Maybe. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'll take it apart. I'll see if I can slide. No, I won't be able to. I was hoping to be lazy and just slide the entire outers off with the wheels attached, but I don't think that's going to quite work out. There we go. Look at all that toe in. Perfect. Now, next I'm gonna unbolt the pan hard there. That should allow us to loosen these or unscrew these, and then everything's gonna slide off. And then we'll go from there. It might be a mistake to do that. It might be difficult to remove other parts after I do it that way, but yeah, we'll find out. Only one way to find out. Well, and that's gonna be using a little bit of power assist. One thing that I did notice going from this rig to the stock Element is that the stock Element has a lot more flexibility in our steering. So even using the same, 500 LP strength servo, it was really, really flexing everything around. So I think what I may do on the other one is I'm gonna have to get an aluminum panhard mount on the frame And that'll help a whole lot. That's the majority of the flex is coming from this mount over here, just kind of wobbling around. There we are. Let's see, is that the same length as the pan-hard mount? No, it's not. I will keep that pan-hard separate then. All right, am I gonna be able to just pull these off? I see they're splined. Ooh, that's kind of neat. You know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look and see where these splines line up. And that way, hopefully I can line up the C-hubs after the fact a little easier. There we go, so pulls right out. Got sealed bearings on that. There we go. And there's really no way for me to get this apart other than just taking it completely apart. So we're going to do that. Well, we had ourselves a little round of freezing weather here, and now it seems like it's getting warm again. That's kind of typical for Missouri. Our weather is all over the place. The old saying is, if you don't like the weather here, wait 15 minutes or whatever, 5 minutes. Not very many minutes. Now, I would have preferred to use a single brand for both of these parts because the likelihood of a part not working increases when you use different aftermarket brands because everybody has different tolerances. Everybody has their own ideas of which way the tolerance should go. So, you know, we could take 100 rigs and we can measure the plastic and it's going to have its own variability to it. And a secondary part manufacturer, they will do the same and they have to decide, okay, so where's our nominal? And then when we manufacture them, do we want that nominal to be a middle range measurement? Do we want that nominal to be an upper range or a lower range measurement? And you get two manufacturers and one says, okay, nominal is going to be nominal plus or minus, let's say 5/1000ths of an inch, practically a mile when it comes to machining. And then the other one says, I want that to be, you know, plus 0 minus 10/1000ths. And so the problem is when you get two parts that don't quite line up on tolerances. So we'll see how these go. Generally on these little crawlers, it's not that big of a deal this way or that. Okay, these guys are gonna move, so I'm gonna put a magnet there so they don't roll away. Little set screws. Let's take a look at the other side. This should be a through screw. Okay, now we got swarf in this side. So that one, okay, so this side pushes all the way through, our screw goes in, and then it'll clamp because it's threaded on the other side. And taking back a look at this one, it's threaded on both sides, but it looks like, yeah, there's just a bunch of swarf in there, just poor machining cleanup. There we go. So I just needed to ram that screw through, and there we are. Now it will function as the stock unit intended. This plastic one slips on really tight. There's no wiggle room on there at all with that plastic stock one. And then we get the STRC version. It's got a little bit of ribs on there. A little bit of ribs, but then it's super loose. So that clamp is going to be doing all the work, and our ribs are going to be doing hardly nothing. So I guess I'll put this together on the bench and then bolt it in. We got to unbolt all of these. There we are. Everything worked out. There's that. There's our hub. There's our here's our plastic hex. I don't know why I still have a plastic hex on there, but that's fine. There's that guy and our universal joint, which is getting a little dirty. Cool. Now the question is, will I need to steal the ball bearings from this, or does the SSD brass knuckle come with ball bearings? It looks as though it comes with ball bearings. One of my favorite things to do is to be unprepared for a build. Right, so there are outer ball bearings. We have our little pivot bolts and no inner ball bearings. That's interesting. I wonder if they provide the outers because it's a different size from stock. Let's take a look real quick. Looks like it might be a millimeter bigger. It would have been nice for these to be sealed or rubber shielded ball bearings, but you know, you can wish in one hand. Yeah, these ball bearings are now missing. They're larger. These ball bearings, the outer ones, are larger than the stock, so that's actually good. Tap, tap. Ooh, there we go. That's the way. There we go. So we know the secret. We can just tap these out. The tolerances are just loose enough. Before I reinstall them, we'll just make sure this is really nice and clean, because I don't want to put any grit into that fit. There we go. These are substantial. All right, so this inner bearing surface, really easy fit, just kind of slid right in. Now, the question is, are we going to get any play in this? Nope, no play, really. So we're good. Now, do I use the plastic hexes or not? Do I have metal hexes laying around? It seems like I should have some extra hexes. I may as well just look. These hexes are slightly different than the regular axial hexes, although this part that came from Pitbull does accept axial hexes. Here's one. There's a old school ring and pinion. All right, so we got one hex. Well, I need a matching pair if I'm going to use them. Oh, my old AX10 parts in here. Well, some of them, I guess. We'll just use a plastic hex. It'll be fine until it's not. There we are. One of these numbers. One of these numbers. All the numbers. What is your favorite number? I don't know if I have a favorite number, but if I had to pick one, it would be the number 3. Just a teeny bit of in and out play. That should be fine. Okay, let's see how these stock screws do. I'm just going to reuse the stock screws. I'll leave these bushinged screws for later if I do a rebuild. Then, yeah. Okay, I am gonna add some Loctite, because I know, and you should know, what happens if you don't add Loctite to a metal screw going into a piece of metal. It gets loose. Especially with a steering knuckle, it's constantly being moved back and forth. Giggling to myself because saying back and forth reminded me of This Way and that reminded me of that old Adam Sandler sketch. I fed my snake some beer one time. It was slithering this way and that. I don't know why that popped into my head, but it did, and it's funny. It was slithering this way and that. Yes. I am but a child in an adult's body. maybe like 3/4 of a nugget. We don't want to go too tight because it'll crush the plastic, but at the same time, the looseness of these was such that we have to have at least something. Anybody from Pitbull, you want to tell me in the comments, what other wheels would these bolt up to? Good enough. Oh no! We'll see if it's slightly easier to have the rig in this position for the other side. We'll see. Maybe. And that. And this. And this. And one of these. Slide this out. Let's see if I can get the bearing out the same way. Hey, look at that. We'll even, there we go. That was nice. Pulling this out, may as well clean it. We'll just put that on loosely, I guess. Then this drops in. Put it down, pick it up. There we are. Then this. Our knuckle. Here we are, nice and heavy. Oh, may want to put the ball bearings in before I bolt it on too. I mean, sometimes those are needed. There we go. This one isn't loose. I mean, it still falls in and out, but the other one was loose enough that I could shake it and hear it going. This one is not. Much better fitment. I don't know if there's an easy way around that, trying to have ball bearings that are, you know, not necessarily a press fit, but let's call it a light interference fit. And then also having it serviceable, you'd have to like cut a hole in the side. And a lot of times if you're cutting a hole in the side of it, it screws up that edge of the bearing pocket. You know, you would have to have some way to get a tool in. Honestly, cutting it from the front, there's a lipped edge on there. You could probably cut a hole in two edges of that, and that would give you a pass through to like punch it out. And then, you know, I'm thinking like a machinist here, I guess. You know, how could I manufacture this, keep it where it was serviceable, but also not have a slip fit on a bearing seat? Because a slip fit on a bearing seat is not good for the bearings. It's not good for everything else that is relying on the bearings to be accurate. So, you know, I can armchair design these all day, but it's not my product, and I'm sure it'll be fine. But if it's not, if we do see that inside ball bearing fail in time, we will know what it is from. And I could always put like a dab of Loctite or something, even super glue. I don't really like using super glue to keep bearings from rattling, but that would be something that we could do. All right, so pretty nice enough that the tolerances, there's a little bit of up and down in both these. If I wanted to be really nuts about it, I could shim in between the knuckle and the C-hub. What's important is that our shoulder screws aren't bottoming out. Or well, they are bottoming out, but they're not bottoming out on the knuckle. They're bottoming out on the C-hub, which makes them still turn nice and smooth. So I don't know about the steel on the brass. We'll see if it starts to gall at all. But on this rig, I really highly doubt it. I don't see it being a problem. All right, so I'm going to try to line these up exactly the same as the other ones were. Right on that part line. Come on now. I'm more impressed with the machining tolerances of the SSD parts than I am the STRC right now. Again, I can armchair jockey these, but hopefully these bolt down into the exact same plane. It's going to be really annoying if these don't line up left to right. Because right now it's looking like the splines are just ever so slightly off left to right. And that would bug me to no end. I would take these C-hubs right back off. So how are you going to bolt down? You're going to... There we go. Okay. Man, these things are practically bottoming out on this side. Versus this side, y'all saw how much I was ugga-duggan. And this one, yeah, I don't know if that shows up on camera, but it's got a nice millimeter separation on this end of it where they start the cut, and on this end it is actually touching. So tolerances from one part to another from SDRC, not very impressed. But again, I'm armchair designing and machining these. I can complain all that I want, and that's not going to actually do anything, nor is it going to put these onto the rocks to where we know if there's actually a problem or not. The tolerances on stuff, you know, it really doesn't have to be that great for toy parts. I would want them to be that great. But like I said, aftermarket manufacturers, they're setting their tolerances in one direction, and the actual manufacturer may be setting their tolerances in another direction. So it's really hard to win all the time. Now we're getting close. One thing that I haven't Loctited are these little screws that are going into the hub. It is metal on metal on metal. However, these are tiny, tiny screws. They use what, a 1.5 mil driver? And even with the blue Loctite, we're gonna have issues removing them without stripping screws. So I'm just gonna check them every here and there. That's probably our best bet. Because these are all flush to the wheel, and if any of them get loose, it'll be pretty visually obvious. And it's always good to do a pre-ride check before you go out anyway to make sure nothing's loose. And also after you're done wheeling. There we go. There we go. There we go. And there we go. Cool. Last thing. Oh wow, yeah. This thing is a lot more forward heavy now. Almost at the front of my skid plate. Once I put the battery in, our balance point is going to be way in front of that skid plate. Cool. Just what I was looking for. This is what I wanted. All right, a little more Loctite because, again, we're going into metal instead of plastic like on the stock ones. We can reuse our screws for the steering arms. And let's see, it looks like, let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like they did actually give us extra screws for the steering arms as well. But I'm just going to reuse the stock ones. Actually, I'm going to put my panhard screw on first because it's kind of hard to line everything up. Oh boy, it doesn't need to be nearly so long. I wonder if they, let's see, 1, 2, oh no, it wouldn't be in that package. Would not be in that package. All right, this screw is definitely way too long. It's not in the way of anything, I guess, but it's sticking out really, really far. So I'll just have to keep an eye on that. We'll see if when the steering is hooked up, if it hits that screw now. I can just use a shorter screw. Another thing I didn't really think of is that now potentially with the aftermarket knuckles or C-hubs, our panhard may have changed some. So we'll see if everything still lines up. What my concern is that either my steering or the suspension cycling is going to bottom out now. You know, this was a bolt-in kit with the TGH chassis. However, like I said, aftermarket parts from different vendors, you start getting weird things with tolerances being in different directions, and or maybe even vendors measuring incorrectly. That certainly happened before, or accidentally putting in a mistake, which you would hope that vendors would, you know, change and do all that. All right, I gotta be really careful on this because brass does not hold threads very well, and it feels like it's just tightening more and more and more, and if I keep going, it's just gonna pull the threads right out of the brass. So gotta be careful on that. Maybe a quarter ugga-dugga, not too many ugga-duggas on brass. Steel screw, brass threads, the brass threads are gonna win or lose. The steel screw is gonna win. There we go. We'll see if this changes our toe in or anything. It shouldn't. It better not. But once again, multiple vendors, multiple parts. There is a chance that it may change things. There we go. Now, tight. Getting a little bit of back and forth rock on that C-hub, which, oh no, sorry, that's the entire axle. Whoa. I lost, what is that? Caster? Not, okay, so camber, I think caster. I lost all my caster putting those C-hubs on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove those screws. I'm gonna clock them. I would clock them one notch, but I don't know about the accuracy on these. So yeah, I'm gonna clock them a little bit. That'll lean back the knuckles just a bit, because right now this was in a stock position, and instead of being leaned back a little bit, I've actually got caster in the wrong angle. And my left and right hubs are not exactly lined up. Thanks STRC for your fantastic machining quality. This is what I was afraid of. They're just way too loose. They did not do a good job of following the factory tolerances on the plastic, and so as you clamp them down, they've just got enough wiggle room that people like myself are going to be a little upset about seeing a 3-degree difference between your left and the right. It will make it steer differently. It will make it handle differently on the rocks. But again, for toys like this, do we really need that much tolerance? Do we need that much accuracy? Yeah, it'll be fine. I'll deal with it. All right, so we're gonna clock them way back, evidently. I can't clock this one back too much or it'll start hitting the rails. Okay, that was interesting. So I clocked it back and it looks like it's at the same point where I originally wanted them when I was bolting it down. We'll just see how that goes. Should be fine. We'll see if they still are offset left to right. It did look like the knuckle or the C-hub kind of bounced back, opened back up. So it didn't permanently deform after I tightened them. That's a good sign. And maybe this time when I bolt them down, they'll be even. That'd be real nice. There, now let's give the old looky-see. What was that? I don't know. Too late. All right. Ooh, barely misses the axle now. But it misses the axle. Cool, cool, that's a start. All right, what's bottoming out now? Okay, that's on the steering arm, that's normal. What about this side? We're scraping the axle just a little bit. I could, let's see, what could I do? I've already got the upper link in the back position. I could potentially lengthen my lower links by like a turn or something like that, but everything is pretty much clearing now. And let's see about our steering. Yeah, it looks like that screw's too long, the pan hard screw. I was worried about that. Now, can I get to it? Yes. All right, shorter screw. Got a whole tray of screws here. Use all that Loctite, last little bit. Perfect. Oh yeah, there's plenty of threads. Almost the entire depth. Perfect. Alrighty. Here's a pack. This is definitely a pack. This is a battery. It's gonna slide in right there. It's gonna have rails pressing directly on it. All right, I think model 14 is what this one was on. And now you can see that I have some toe out on that overhead camera. You see that? So maybe I can loosen these knuckles and loosen the C-hubs and jam them in. Let's make sure this is the right model. Yep, I think this is the right model. Cool. All right. Yeah, we're going to loosen these chubs a little bit. I am going to try and jam these wheels in as much as they will go, and maybe that will get rid of our toe out that we now have. Hopefully. Hopefully there's a little bit of room. Oh, no, I don't think so. I'll loosen them a little more. Yeah, I guess we're dealing with a little bit of toe out now until I change the length of our steering arm, or not the steering arm, the connecting rod. All right, so we almost had everything line up perfectly, but now we've got a little bit of that. You know, and there's some tolerances in these parts, but they'll work fine. I'm sure they're going to work fine. We're going to go out on the rocks, we'll test them out, and we'll go from there. I'm sure exactly what I'm looking for, which was more forward weight bias, is what we're going to get. So, oh yeah. On the very front, oh yeah, I bet you this is going to hook pretty well now. So yeah, I guess nothing left to do but go out on the rocks and have some fun. So that's what we'll do in the next video. If you have any questions about parts, maybe preferably parts that I'm not harping on the tolerances about, but just ask down below. I'll do my best to get to them. As always, thanks for tuning in and have a great day.